turned out to be something of a battle for survival. Joey McLaughlin, that tough little scouser, took race 1 in this series in Manchester. He proved to be a very popular winner. He also finished the night as king of the sprints. All eyes in Dublin, though, surprise, surprise, were on Sean Kelly and Stephen Roach. They love a celebration here and wouldn't have needed much more of an excuse than a win for either of them. They're down on the start line now with our commentators Phil Liggett and Jimmy McGee.
Now, for the rest of the guys in the field tonight, of the big field, it's perhaps just another city centre cycle race. But not alone do the crowd expect you two guys to do well, they expect you to win. That's a responsibility, Sean.
Yeah, that's a big responsibility, especially when you look at the field, and the English riders are they're big specialists in this sort of event. I don't reckon myself as a great specialist in this sort of event. Leading up to the Worlds and things, those are dangerous events because on a tight circuit, and when the road is wet, you can come down very easy. If somebody comes down in front, you can come down so easy. But yeah, we go out there and we do our best, and that's all you can do. Yeah,
it really is a serious worry. Phil Liggett's here with us as well, and he's with Stephen, because Phil, the rain has come down and there's 200 metres of cobbles, and that's dangerous.
Well, that first bend, Jimmy, the adverse camera, I think there's a lot of riders here quite worried about that. What about you, Steve? 2 years ago you won here on your own. Since then, of course, forms change. You've had a very poor season because of injury. How do you feel tonight?
I don't want to fall off again. So far this year I've had so much bad luck, and over a bad fall I had last year in the last race of the year in Paris, and trying to come back too quickly, cutting corners and everything else, it hasn't done me any good. And I'm kind of starting to come back now for the World Championships, and I just don't want to fall off again.
Yeah, so you're going to take it quite carefully around the back there?
Well, it's one thing taking it very quietly, but if everybody else doesn't want to take it quietly, it's going to be different.
Sean's like?
Well, I don't think Sean's my main worry here, because I think, as Sean said, the English guys, they've been warming up for the last half hour. We've been standing here waiting for the television interview.
Don't blame us.
I think there's discrimination there, I think. But anyway, no, I think it's the English lads do this. This is their bread and butter. Like, our bread and butter is over beyond riding different type of race. Whereas this is my first Criterium, like this is last year, the Kellogg's like. So I think the English pros are more equipped for this kind of racing.
All right, well, we're going to look forward to it.
Yeah, those very same English pros are assembling at the start line. If you lads don't get to the front line, you could be left. So shake hands and come out fighting.
That's not a bad idea, Jimmy, yeah?
The rain has just started, Jimmy, almost on cue here. The riders about 5 or 6 seconds from the start, and the rain is beginning to fall. So the cobbles will certainly be slippery, and off they go on what is certainly going to be a difficult circuit around the city of Dublin tonight. Well, a big homecoming for Stephen Roach and Sean Kelly. Both riders dogged by injury this year, and both riders want to prove what they did 2 years ago in the city of Dublin and try and come home first and second tonight. Good start, Jimmy. Sean Kelly on the front to begin with.
Yes, this is what the crowd, and it's a big crowd, came to see. It's Malcolm Elliott riding in second place at the moment. You can see how tentative they are coming into those cobblestones, which end just as they enter that very narrow arch, and then they come into the main castle yard. So as Stephen Roach and Sean Kelly said earlier on, they don't want to fall with the proximity of the World Championships and other events. So it's who's going to take the chance and who's going to be brave tonight, as well as who has the talent.
Well, as Paul Vescura brings the riders round through the castle yard, I must say, Jimmy, while you were talking then, I was watching the back wheels of those riders, and they were visibly sliding every time they were pressing on the pedals. So it's going to be extremely greasy through the castle yard, and I think we might have some fun and games. But Paul Vescura has started the ball rolling very quickly indeed, and this is a Belgium at home in his own backyard, as it were, because of course in Belgium there are many, many cobblestones left in the cities around that country, and the Belgians love racing over them. Look at the wheel tracks there on the road left by the machines on the previous lap, and almost overshooting that bend, Paul Vescura, and this surface is quite clearly treacherous.
So it's for sure the man nearest to him at the moment is Shane Sutton, the overall winner of the Kellogg series last year. And just look at how gingerly they're going there. That's Sean Kelly third. 50 riders starting the race, and it's a pity about the rain, because it really has killed off the urgency on that particular bend, which at the best of times would have been a real challenge for them. It's for sure stage one winner of the 1986 Tour de France, which of course was covered by colleague Phil Liggett.
And of course, Vescura and Frank Hoster, another Belgian rider in this bunch tonight. They're both stage winners in the Tour de France. And Frank Hoster indeed outsprinted Sean Kelly a couple of years ago to win a stage on the Champs-Élysées of that great event. but Viscura quite clearly staying out of trouble here. And a marvellous crowd, as you can see, has turned out to see the riders on this circuit. And Viscura completing lap number 3 and hasn't yet come off the front. Shane Sutton of Australia, Jimmy, working very hard. And, of course, he was the overall series winner of the Kellogg's Championships last year.
Which reminds us that this year, Dublin and Cork are officially part of the overall Kellogg Championship. A championship that began in Manchester just 2 nights ago and produced a win for Joy McLaughlin, who's in the field here. So a lot of points to begin tonight and in Cork on Friday.
So nobody getting near Viscura. Shane Sutton monitoring. Sean Kelly staying up there in third place. The yellow jersey passing through the picture there is Joey McLaughlin. And a trouble already here in the pits. Phil Baton has a problem, and I think he's had a puncture. New wheel already in. Now, to explain the rule here, the riders are allowed 1 lap out of the race to repair any defect, or of course remount should they fall, and they go back in the big field, and no penalty is incurred, unless of course we are in the last 5 laps of the race, and then I'm afraid you either retire or you chase.
And here they're coming up towards that line, Lord Edward Street, and they'll swing left at the top of Lord Edward Street, down Werburgh Street, and then at the end of Werburgh Street is that very sharp left-hander that comes into the downhill cobble. Coming towards it now. Castle Inn in the background. Verschure, still for sure, up leading the pack, but look at the blue jersey of Kelly, how prominent that is, and that's the yellow of Joey McLaughlin. Now, carefully down, 200 metres of cobbles. Oh, and this is what the cobbles can cause. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 riders in trouble. Happily, nobody seriously injured. 17 gets himself out of that. 17 is...
Well, that's Phil Baton, Jimmy, and that's the rider who's just had a puncture. And also delayed here, it looks like Tony Doyle, 46, so the former world champion is down. 1 or 2 good riders have gone down there, Jimmy, and they were looking to me as though they were remounting and chasing rather than taking a lap out. Now, they've got to get around to the pit area to report there to the referee and say what the problem is. If they can't do that, they can't take that lap out. So the field is split up, and looking at the back of this field earlier on as they came through, you see the riders at the back coming round the bend now. 1 or 2 riders of note are behind the race and quite clearly away. This is Adrian Timmis sprinting through the picture there. Second in the British Professional Championship in June. And Timmis is one of these riders delayed in that crash. Sean Kelly has kept well clear of it, going round that bend in second place. And I'm keeping one eye out for Stephen Roach too, of course. Both these riders are thinking of the World Championships in a few weeks' time and certainly don't want to be involved in a silly accident tonight. John Wainwright on the front, Kelly in second place, Frank Hoster in third, Shane Sutton goes round in fourth, and that bright yellow jersey of the Kellogg's Championship leader, Joey McLaughlin, keeping an eye on the furs in 6th or 7th place.
And again, it's a very busy pit.
Well, these are all the crash victims, and this is Alan Dipple of Australia getting a few pounds pressure put into his tyres. I would imagine that the riders, in fact, and there's an example, are letting the air out of the tyres now because the tyres were too hard. The roads were dry when they came to line up. The rain started as the field began, and now the tyres are too hard.
I think it's a good moment to go down to the pits. Our man down there is Ger Canning. I don't know if Ger can hear us. If he can, he will certainly tell us about the mayhem down there.
Certainly there have been some problems already here in the pitch. The tyre change is taking anything up to 15 seconds, and then some of them getting quickly back into it again. But already a fair bit of action here in the pits, and you can see some of the riders in trouble and taking the lap out that Phil Liggett talked about. And that pile up there already taking its toll. This is the scene down in the pits area.
Well, the riders are getting themselves back into some order there, Jimmy, and hats off to them because they've had a terrible opening few laps. They've only been riding, in fact, for a few minutes. The roads are beginning to dry out a little bit, and let's hope that soon they'll be able to settle down.
It's not without coincidence, though, that the quality men are up front. Hoss, Piper, Sutton, Kelly, Roach, they're all about there. And I suppose no matter what the condition, or what the circuit, or what the terrain, the quality men will always, like the cream, come to the top. Early days in the Kellogg's Dublin city centre on this threatening to be wet and often fulfilling the threat here in Dublin. Right now, as Phil Liggett says, it has stopped raining, but we have no automatic dryer to dry off the street, so that problem on the cobbles will remain. But fair play to the cyclists when they get in what passes for reasonable conditions. They give it a go, but somebody else has two people gone on the cobbles again.
And these are Mark Walsham and Kevin Lloyd who've gone down, so they too have overshot on the bend, and it looks to me as though Kevin Lloyd has hurt his leg. So Lloyd may well have to retire. He's a long way from the pits, in fact on the opposite side of the circuit. And remember, he must report in at those pits, otherwise he can't continue. Meanwhile, this race goes on, what is now a survival of the strong men and those with the most nerve, and Sean Kelly always stays at or near the front. What a skillful rider he is. There he is, Kelly on the front. Behind him rather is Shane Sutton, and Paul and Frank Hoster is just behind him. And the riders coming out of Castle Yard, and they come up to the line again. This time it was Stephen Roach going through, Sean Kelly, and this is where they have to brake hard. And then they dip down over the rise here as they go down towards the turn into Ship Street Little. And it's that corner that causes the problems. Here it is, it's adverse camber. And just watch how the riders treat this corner with great respect. Roach almost coming to a standstill. So too Shane Sutton, then Frank Hoster. And Malcolm Elliott there, he's already been down once and in the pits. He's rejoined the race at the front.
Skillfully read through by Roach under the narrow arch and into the Castle Yard. When they come out of this, they'll make a left-hander, and then they'll be facing another narrow arch. They can't actually see it, the cyclists, when they make that bend there, but believe me, it's ahead of them. Shortly we shall see it. There it is now. They'll come out of that narrow arch and make a left turn near the famous Olympia Theatre, Cork Hill, into Lord Edward Street, past the traffic lights. Don't mind the red. They don't count in an event like this, but they're green now for the rest. And up again towards the start-finish line. They've been cycling for about 12 minutes, and up on the front there, number 14 is Steve Jochen, the native of the Isle of Man, a great little battler. But Roach and Kelly keeping very close order, and as we said before, Phil,
well, this Jimmy has got Sid Barras, Malcolm Elliott, Phil Thomas, and a rider on the inside there looking injured is John Herity. Well, these are four of the race's best riders here. British champion Phil Thomas at the back, straightening his handlebars with his fist. On the left here is Sid Barras, and Barras has already had one serious crash this year, a head injury in the milk race. He's only just returned, and he looks quite winded. So Roach is surviving, and that is the word this evening in the city of Dublin at the front of the race. John Herity has rejoined, I think, in the group. All those riders happily up again. Malcolm Elliott is here in second place. So Elliott, for the second time this evening, is back on his bike and back in the bunch. Remember, of course, as long as they can get back in within one lap, there is no penalty incurred at this stage of the event. Oh, and down goes Kevin Lloyd at the same place as he did 3 laps ago, and this time I think Kevin has landed on his hip.
back in the pits, more problems.
And that's Sid Barras. And Sid Barras has won 195 professional races, the highest number by any rider in the British Isles. And Sid, in fact, one of the few British riders who can claim to have beaten Eddie Merckx in his heyday, which he did in the Tour of Switzerland and again at Eastway a few years ago before the great Belgian retired with 5 Tours de France under his belt. Well, it's 1 lap to go now to the sprint lap. So next time around, it's the first 5 riders over the line that count. So they'll take a little bit more than the normal risk tonight around this nasty bend over the cobbles. Stephen Roach keeping that front position for safety as much as to see where he's going tonight. And this is the corner that's causing the problem. Roach will brake hard. His brakes are already full on. You can see there by his left hand as we look at the picture. Around the bend, gently as you like. And now he opens up the sprint. Next time around, first 5 riders on the line will receive the points for this opening sprint of the night. And Roach taking a look over his shoulder. Joey McLaughlin moving up there. So the series leader overall and the winner in Manchester on Monday evening comes up in that bright yellow jersey. Well, Roach is still keeping that place on the front. McLaughlin waiting and poised for the sprint here. Frank Hoster comes up into 3rd place. And this is going to be quite a sprint here. It looks like Hugh Ashworth with him as well as they come out of there far more quicker now. Ashworth in the centre, Roach on the right, Frank Hoster comes on the far left. This is a good sprint from the Belgian, and almost a collision there with Joey McLaughlin. Hoster gets it. I think McLaughlin might have taken third place. We'll give you confirmation on the result of the photograph. But there's confirmation of the king of the sprints up now. So that was the first sprint of the night. Frank Hoster of Belgium was winning 5 points. Joey McLaughlin was second. Shane Sutton of Australia and Falcon was third.
So there they are, into Werburgh Street with Paul Watson in the rally livery. Stephen Roach close by. Frank Hoster, with whom we're becoming familiar now. What a good Tour de France he had, and what a great sprinter he is in that Fago team. And if it comes up to a nitty-gritty finish, he's going to be pretty close. So is Malcolm Elliott there, looking behind him. Malcolm's back wheel went, and somebody's umbrella has obscured a view, and is it McLaughlin?
This is McLaughlin down. Elliott was delayed again. That's the third time tonight. Now McLaughlin has decided to go the other way around back to the pits. I'm not sure that's the quickest way, but it's the way that McLaughlin has opted. Remember, he only has 1 lap in which to get back in the race, and this is a serious situation because McLaughlin is not just in the yellow jersey here tonight in Dublin, but he's the overall leader of the complete Kellogg's Championship and desperately needs to finish this race tonight in the first 10 positions and score points. So McLaughlin in trouble at the moment and heading for the pits while the race goes on and the time counts down, because if McLaughlin's not back in this race within 1 lap, he will have to chase or he will be declared to be 1 lap behind. It couldn't have happened at the worst time because we have 3 laps to go. And there's McLaughlin going the other way against the race. He must get back in this race by the time the riders come around to the pits, and they are now 3 laps to go for the second in the King of the Sprints tonight.
And also going back there when we saw Sid Barrett, last year's winner. So there they were, interlocking, so to speak, on Lord Edward Street. 2 cyclists going in the wrong direction, but for very good reasons. Well, what a Kellogg's of 1986. Those who wanted to see an eventful evening have certainly tuned into the right place.
Well, it's going to be difficult to keep up with this one at the moment. This is Dennis Ertveld coming round now with his feet out of the toe clip. And Alan Dipple I can see, Dennis Lightfoot looking over his shoulder. I think they're waiting for an indication from the referee to know exactly where to join in, but meanwhile this race is opening up at the front because the leaders are starting to split completely. They're sensing that with the riders going all over the road, they might well get a breakaway working here, and of course lap riders will not be put back in at the breakaway stage. They'll be sent back to the main field, I would imagine. So Shane Sutton realising now a chance to steal a march over Joey McLaughlin. He was looking across at the pits there to see if he could spot the McLaughlin waiting to start. McLaughlin should now be back in the race, and I'm not too sure whether he was released from the pits there. But they have now 2 laps to go to the sprint. And this leading group stealing a march over the rest of the field. Let's see if we can see who's in the group. Sure, Stephen Roach certainly on the front. Shane Sutton in second place. Paul Watson third. Jack Kershaw in 4. These are the 4 riders going clear as the rain again begins to make this surface quite treacherous. And riders all around the course now. Some are going to be lapped. And the referees now also, Jimmy, have a major problem on their hands, because if riders are lapped, then they are automatically eliminated from the race. And I think there is some confusion here as to whether the riders are in or out. And Shane Sutton is quite clearly indicating, you're out, mate.
And Joey McLaughlin's back. Joey's back. There he is in the bright yellow. Well, confusion reigns apart from the weather.
And Hoster is back on the front. In the green jersey there is Mike Doyle from the Isle of Man and the Modricel team. And it looks as though once again we're getting some semblance of order in this big bunch. Shane Sutton waving riders through, saying, come on, let's get it going, let's get some speed back into this race, because next time round is our second King of the Sprints. Remember, it was Frank Hoster of Belgium who won the first one from Joey McLaughlin in that yellow jersey. Roach and Kelly took 4th and 5th places. But the group is coming back all together, and the man that we haven't seen anything of for a short while is Sean Kelly. Now, whether Kelly is fearing this circuit is becoming too dangerous and has slipped back in the pack, only time will tell us that. ever so gently around this most dangerous corner now, because not only have you got the cobbles here, but you have an adverse camber on that bend, and your bicycle simply does slide away from you. Roach on the front. So coming round now on the sprint lap this time, and Roach is in the lead. Shane Sutton in second place. Third is Joey McLaughlin. So McLaughlin's still in there, still with a chance of points in this competition. But where is the big Belgian Frank Hoster? He's in fourth place. So Hoster was first over the line last time in the King of the Sprints. This is the second one, and Hoster was the winner then. Now, can he pull something out of the bag? He'll need to go very, very quickly now, because this is the sprint, and it's going to be Stephen Roach who's going to score 5 points. Or is it? McLaughlin comes on Roach's left, or left. McLaughlin in yellow on the line now. Roach is going to get it. And that was a good sprint for second place between McLaughlin and Mike Doyle. And I think Shane Sutton will have taken fourth place.
Well, I told you it proved to be something of a battle for survival. Bikes and bodies all over the place. But Stephen Roach setting the Irish crowd alight with a win in that second sprint lap of the evening. Third time around, the honours went to the great Dutchman Henny Kuiper. Phil Baton came in second place. And Malcolm Elliott picked up a special prize of £200 put up by a local bookmaker. Let's rejoin the race now. It's in its closing stages.
3.5 laps to go now. Barras will say thanks very much, Phil. Now it's my turn. And Barras comes to the front. Stephen Roach is on there. Sid Barras adjusts his toe clips, tightens those feet in now. And if he falls off now, I'm afraid he'll go wherever the bike goes, because those feet are locked in, because Barras now thinking of the sprint finish. He's sitting on the wheel of Stephen Roach. Sean Kelly, too, knows the worth of Sid Barras, knows that there is a man who has beaten Eddie Merckx in his heyday in a sprint finish, and so Kelly will give the utmost respect to Barras in second place. We've got Roach in the lead, Barras second, Kelly looking very, very nonchalant in third place and thinking of popping up with a victory which might wipe away some of those bad memories from the Tour de France.
It might indeed, but what a night for Stephen Roach. Gasped at times for a little breath. I hope he won't mind us saying that. Not perhaps in 100% conditions, we said before, but the heart's in the right place and the drive and resolve is there, and as Roach takes them through with 2 laps to go. Kelly beautifully and tactically positioned. Roach from Kelly. It's going to be a great finish because Elliott is up there as well. Shane Sutton is up there. 2 laps to go, and a race that started with rain, with slipping and sliding and falling and spilling on the cobblestones, has developed into a classic now of city centre cycling, and it's Ireland 1 and 2. Roach from Dublin and Kelly from Carrick-on-Shore.
Well, will this be a repeat of 2 years ago when Roach broke away in the last couple of laps and won the race? Sean Kelly handled the main field and finished second. It doesn't look as though the pace will allow anybody to break away now, but Roach is doing all of the work on the front. Kelly is enjoying riding in the slipstream, but always alert now, watching over his shoulder for any move at all, and if it comes, he lifts the speed and keeps the rider behind him. So Kelly, that is, in second place, and Shane Sutton now, a real demon sprinter from Australia who loves a rough and tumble finish. His elbows will come out and he'll battle with the best of them. And remember too that Sean Kelly was once disqualified in a stage in the Tour de France because he came through on the inside and on the barriers up against Jan Raas of Holland. 1 lap to go now, that's the bell, and Kelly hits the front this time. Malcolm Elliott comes in behind Kelly, and with a bit of a speed wobble on there, Shane Sutton on the outside, moves it out, swept away to the right now. He's forced back into fourth place, into this final crucial bend, onto the cobble for the last time. Kelly watches, and Elliott's got the inside. No, he hasn't. Kelly keeps it. Elliott goes through in second place.
Last year's winner, Sid Barras, also in contention. There he is in fourth position. Kelly has a look around his right, hasn't looked his left yet, knows the danger there. It's Malcolm Elliott on his left shoulder in the last lap. Who's going to win Dublin 86? Sean Kelly pushing it up front. Sat there on road for a while. Jack Kershaw coming on the outside. We saw him, Kelly just driving all over the road. This very powerful man into the last bend. Can Kelly sustain it? Sutton is down there in a big spill. A double spill. Kershaw is gone into the last time, coming through the last archway. It's a battle to finish. Elliott is up there as well. Can Kelly hold it?
And this is the finish now. Sean Kelly's going to win this. Or is he from far right now? Watch out for Malcolm Elliott. This is Elliott, and Elliott's going to take it. Elliott screamed home. Malcolm Elliott takes it on the line. Second, Mark Walsham. Third, Sean Kelly. Fourth, Joey McLaughlin. Fifth, Shane Sutton. That was the order over the line. But Malcolm Elliott took advantage there. What a terrific finished by the man from Sheffield. Elliott will be absolutely delighted with that. That's the second victory in the Kellogg series for the ANC team. First it was McLaughlin in Manchester, now it's Malcolm Elliott in Dublin, and that is McLaughlin in yellow saying, well done, Malcolm. But this is the sad sight left in the wake of the sprint finish. As Steve Sefton is on the floor, also went down. I certainly saw Jack Kershaw fall. It looks to me too as though Dave Mann is on the ground, and would you believe it, Sid Barras has gone as well. Well, what a race that really turned out to be. The thrills and spills tonight in Dublin. There is the final result. A win for Malcolm Elliott. In second place, Mark Walsham. Sean Kelly, who led out, was swept out to third spot. Joey McLaughlin got fourth, and Shane Sutton was fifth.
Well, what an extraordinary race, and would you believe there was still more drama to follow at the finish. The referees decided that the points won on the night, because of the fact that there was total confusion there in the pits, wouldn't count in the overall standings. So as we arrive in Cork, it's still Joey McLaughlin as the overall series leader by virtue of the 20 points that he picked up in Manchester. He also finished the night king of the sprints, remember, but it'll be Mike Doyle in that green jersey. Join us again in a moment or so for race 3 here in Cork.
Hello, I'm from the Bike It...
Bibles? I don't want no Bibles.
No, the Bike It Your Like It campaign.
We don't vote. Look, we're watching that city centre cycling, so get on your bike.
That's it, it's a cycling campaign. It's all here in this bike pack. Fitness.
Fitness, nothing wrong with my body, mate.
Well, if you make it back to the telly, you can read the Bike It address.
If I make it back to the telly, what's he on about?
Write to Bike It, Box 33, London SE1 9LT for your free cycling pack.
An extra 3 pence a month, sire, or the serfs will withhold their labour.
What?
The working day to be reduced to 21 hours.
Impossible!
And Christmas morning off.
Ridiculous!
Gamer's Old English Cider. Ice cold.
All right, you win!
It's the only thing to drink when you have an Old English thirst. Gamer's Old English. The original strong cider.
I'll show that bear. I've got some other Fox's Glacier Mints to stand on. They've got the same cool, clear, refreshing mint taste as the one you're on, Bear.
Of course.
Well, try one. Go on, go on.
If you insist.
I do. You'll see. They're really mint.
You fell for that one, Fox.
Northeast Times, the area's exclusive county magazine, each month presents the region's news and views of people, places and events. Amongst many interesting items, there are illustrated features, stories and pictures of top social events. To ensure your copy, place a regular order with your newsagent. And for editorial and advertising, contact Managing Editor Chris Robinson on Tyneside 284-4495.
Barges. For all the top names in sport, and specialist advice too, Intersport. 200 sports shops nationwide.
Appleford's Cluster. 2 deliciously crunchy and 2 delightfully chewy snack bars. Wouldn't you like to get your teeth into one?
Hello again, welcome back to Cork for race 3 in the series, and we're in for some terrific entertainment now as well. They love their cycling in these parts, and they're out in their thousands to welcome Stephen Roach and Sean Kelly, who are both up and rolling again, and after their problems in Dublin the other night, that's how they'll want it to stay. Incidentally, this is virtually Kelly's backyard, so you can work out for yourselves who they'd like to see win here tonight. Well, both the Irishmen did well in Dublin, Kelly finishing third overall. But what about one or two of the other big names? Belgium's Frank Hoster, for instance, who was a stage winner on the Tour de France this year.
Frank Hoster, who's won a stage in Paris, is now accelerating it with that second kick he's got there. With little Contini now trying hard. Hoster's going to get it. He's found the kicks that matters to the line. Frank Hoster takes the stage.
Frank's success there in the Tour, but I think you would concede that so far in this series, your form has been a little disappointing.
Yeah, the form is not so bad, but the race is very different about the Tour de France, and there's a reason I not know these races before. That's the reason, I think.
Have you found them quick? Has the pace surprised you?
Yeah, the speed is very quick, and small circuit, and just 1 hour you have not the time for make the legs good. It's starting to the finish, from the start to the finish, 100%.
One or two of the riders have played up rough on one or two occasions too. I think that surprised you, has it?
Yeah, the riders are very nervous here. I think it's a very important race for the English riders, and I think that's the reason it's very nervous.
Well, what about tonight? You would obviously like to start to show us what you can do. Will this course suit you?
Yeah, I ride 100% for winning a stage, but it's not easy. But I tell it before, the riders in England are very good.
Frank, thanks very much for joining us. We'll let you go along to the start line now, and let's just take a quick look at that course. It's a very tight, twisting left-hand circuit, without question the toughest in the series. Just 840 metres long, and it twice crosses the River Lee there over a couple of tiny bridges. Incidentally, the whole of the finishing straight along Sullivan's Quay has been resurfaced, especially for the event. Well, it's a blustery night, and the wind will play its part. The riders are on the start line. Let's join our commentators, Phil Liggett and Jimmy McGee.
Ready at the start then, but great front line again with Kelly and Roach there, Frank Hoss, the man in yellow, Joey McLaughlin, the young man from Liverpool who won here in Cork last year. Just on his left, Sean Kelly, looking down Sullivan's Quay. And just about the off, and we have a radio mic there. We have a radio mic there on John Herity, and hopefully we'll hear him around the circuit. Very tight circuit.
An attack at the moment by Freddie Martins of Belgium, former world champion, and this is the first time, in fact, we've seen Freddie get to the front. He's come out with a vengeance tonight. He's been training around by outside the city of Cork today, done something like 60 miles, if you believe, on his bike, and he's enjoyed every minute of riding around the roads of Southern Ireland today. Thankfully, the blue skies over the River Lee this evening, and I think the riders will give us a good race because of it. So Freddie Martins of Belgium, 15 stage wins in the Tour de France, one of only two men to win 8 stages in any one year in that great race. The other one, of course, was Eddie Merckx, his countryman, and twice a winner of the World Championship, once in Prague and once in Canada.
So Freddie Martins has fallen on lean time since those glory days. He's taking them out. An unidentified flying object was sighted in Cork today, and then somebody realized it was the sun, which has been missing for a long time in this country in the summer of 1986.
Well, one or two problems for the Italian Walter Dalgal, who only, in fact, started the race tonight as a late entrant. A rear wheel puncture problem, and remember, the riders are allowed a lap out for running repairs in the pits. It'll be a quick change, and he'll rejoin the race by the time the riders come round once again. That's number 68, Walter Dalgal.
Baton on the front, joined by Paul de Scuur now of Belgium. He's brought him back and been responsible for bringing the field back in. Mark Bell, the British champion, comes up into second place. Where's number 1? Because of that title he won 4 or 5 weeks ago. Ex-British champion. He's either a very, very good rider, Mark, or he stays at the back and we don't see too much of him. And the fact that he's riding near the front this evening is a good indication. He's feeling tonight as though he wants to get on with the racing, and he could indeed be a great danger man to Sean Kelly when he wants to be. Mark Bell is one of the fastest sprint finishers in the world. And that's Bell in the centre of our picture in blue, and Shane Sutton comes through now, the defending champion in the Kellogg series. He won the title a year ago and has quite good form, Jimmy, so I would think that tonight this course will suit Shane Sutton. There could well indeed be quite a few sprinters want to show their legs after Dublin.
Yes, they're building up towards it now, the first sprint lap of the first sprint prizes of the night. 1 and a bit laps to go to that, and the big guns are setting themselves in for the finish, but Sutton is setting a hot pace, and he may reduce the sprint to one solo break of his own. He's been pursued very closely by Phil Baton, but Sutton, I should imagine, in a close finish will have the better of Phil, but Joey McLaughlin significantly has moved up close as well. Joey, we very well know what he can do, and he absolutely adores the Cork circuit. As they move into the mile, swing into that right-hander, the only right-hander on the course, brings them into grand parade. They'll only be there for a matter of a few meters and a few seconds before, as you'll see in a moment, Shane Sutton will swing into Tuckey Street and down towards South Main Street, and then they'll be within hearing distance, if not sight, of the finish line for the sprint number 1 on Sullivan Cave. So here's a debate.
And this is Phil Thomas on the front. He won the first 2 Kellogg's Championship Series in 1983, 1984. Since then, he's been quite an ill man. He's back on form now, though, and this is Phil Thomas. And he's leading out Steve Jockin here. Both these riders, ex-British champions, fighting out the first sprint of the night. And looks like Steve Jockin on the inside has just pipped him on the line. That was a tremendous sprint. Steve Jockin and Phil Thomas. Mike Doyle was 3rd, Mark Bell was 4th, and I think Phil Baton was 5th. And so the riders are now on 36 laps from the finish. Tony Doyle is on the front. Henny Kuiper in 2nd place. In fact, just been passed on the inside there by Phil Baton. And still we haven't seen hardly anything of Sean Kelly tonight, and that to me is a clean indication that Kelly is riding this race purely to win this evening in the city of Cork. There's David Miller, former circuit race champion last year, lost his title this year to Paul Sherwin, who sadly isn't here tonight because he's back home ill. But this is the former world champion Tony Doyle, seeking for the form and hoping to win back his World 5,000 metres pursuit championship in Colorado Springs later this month. So Doyle on the front.
Big man, one of the biggest men in cycling, over 13 stone and over 6 feet tall. Really big man, but controls the bike well. Wouldn't fancy, of course, a windy evening, I should imagine, Tony, but as a pursuiter, one of the very best, has a quick glance over his left shoulder, and that's what he sees. 3 laps or less now to go to the sprint lap. Tony Doyle leading them out. As Phil says, no prominence from Kelly up at the front, but a lot of prominence from Kelly in the first 10 all evening. So he's conserving, and he's got an awful lot left, and how he would love to win in Cork, and I wouldn't like to back against him at this stage.
That's absolutely right, Jimmy. Well, it was interesting to note that Joey McLaughlin did not score any points in that previous King of the Sprints, the opening sprint of the evening. This will be the second one in a couple of laps' time. And McLaughlin has 13 points in that competition overall, counting Glasgow as well. And Mike Doyle, his nearest challenger, also now has 13 points. So they're locked in for that green jersey competition at the top. We're 2 laps away from the sprint now. Doyle is persisting with his attack on the front. Phil Baton is working very hard to bring the race up, and there's a lot of scrabbling for wheels further down that line now. The screws are really being turned here this evening. This race is going from the gun, as it has done. Remember, we opened up with a lot of hard riding by Stephen Roach. We've seen Henny Kuiper on the attack. We've seen the pocket rocket, Steve Jockin, and now we've got Doyle. Kuiper there on the left in white. Behind him, we've got Phil Baton. And the whole field winding its way around, but the back of the race in some form of disarray. Kuiper now on the front. Phil Baton checking to see who's behind him. Well, it's Malcolm Elliott, the winner at Dublin. That's Elliott in 3rd place. He's looking for the sprint points this time, I would say. What's happened to the yellow jersey of Joey McLaughlin?
Just 1 lap to go to the sprint lap. So coming up this important gathering of points again. Henny Kuiper takes them out. So great battles here in Cork this evening. The race itself is an overall spectacle. The sprints been contested splendidly all the time. Malcolm Elliott takes them out. One down. They're now on the sprint lap. Elliott over Parliament Bridge. Elliott, the winner in Dublin, led them when we last saw a shot down Parliament Street, and when we see the next shot at Elliott in there again. Malcolm Elliott, look in the field, right behind him. Any one of them could take it. The green jersey of Mike Doyle prominent. How he'd actually love to win one of these sprints. Tremendous idea of pace here, but Elliott is in pole position.
Well, this is typical Malcolm Elliott. He loves this type of racing. He's run 30 races as a professional in just 2.5 years, and this is the sort of sprint he really loves. He's won 12 stages in the British Milk Race in a long career as both amateur and professional, most of them in the sprint finish. Look at the pace of Elliott now. Takes the corner as tight as one possibly can, then makes the riders force their way down that bend. Elliott goes clear, head for the flag now, and nobody seems to be able to get him. Malcolm Elliott's going to take this quite clearly from Phil Bayton. Third is Mike Doyle. Fourth was Tony Doyle, and they were the first four as they crossed the line.
Well, we got Paul Watson coming into the pits. Paul, it looks like a tough old race out there.
Yeah, really, really fast. At Dublin, I crashed twice, and the same time I landed on my shoulder, and same as in the Michelins where I had my shoulder from the milk race. It was the same side I landed on, and today I couldn't pull out of the bars again, so pretty disappointed. Pretty bad crashes as well on the cobbles on Dublin. So
it's the end of your race this time around.
Yeah, don't know what's happened this year. Just keep crashing, just so fast, and you're absolutely on the limit every time for these bends and fighting for everything you can get.
It's very difficult here, isn't it?
So everyone wants to be at the front, and when everyone wants to be at the front, it's just so hard, and that's when you get accidents, especially when it was wet and you come down, it's like ice. That was it.
Who do you fancy tonight?
Oh, it's either Kelly or Roach, I think, or maybe Elliott again because he's going so well. Could be any one of them three, I think.
Race so far, disappointing to see you out.
Yeah, I hope my shoulder will get better for Glasgow. I should think so.
We'll see you then.
Cheers.
Well, they really are looking after us in Cork tonight. The weather almost perfect for this sort of Criterium racing, and it's proved every bit as good so far as we hoped it might be. We're going to take a short break. Join us again in a moment or so for the closing stages.
Look, stop the car, there's a deer.
I can't stop now, really.
I feel sick. Oh, I love this. It's great. I'm hungry.
Out in the country, but stuck to the road? Change 4 wheels for 2. Write to Bike It, Box 33, London SE1 9LT for your free cycling pack.
Now look what you've done. Hold on, I'll get him. There aren't any sharks in here, are there? No.
Crocodiles ate all the sharks.
Australians wouldn't give a Castlemaine 4X for anything else.
This one's for me. It's Diet Coke. For looking good and living good, it's Diet Coca-Cola. Feel cola taste so good you'll feel refreshed. One calorie to look your best. For you and me, the taste is right. It's Diet Coca-Cola. This one's for me. Diet Coca-Cola.
High Techs are the sport shoes with the grip that gets stuck in. They're the nearest thing to four-wheel drive for your feet. High Techs.
The originals at Windows Records. 32 all-time classic grades. The original hits that have influenced and inspired the charts of the 80s. The Originals. 32 all-time classic greats at Windows Records.
If you were to start saving now for a new car, how much of it could you afford in, say, a few months' time? This much, perhaps? Or maybe this much. At any rate, it'd never pass an MOT, which is why we strongly recommend you buy all of your new car in one go, with the help of a personal loan from us, Yorkshire Bank. It's everybody's everyday bank, whatever you need a loan for.
Welcome back. Let me just give you the 1, 2, 3 of the third sprint lap of the evening. It's got a familiar ring about it. First across the line was Malcolm Elliott, second Phil Baton, and third Stephen Roach. There's the 1, 2, 3, Elliott, Baton and Roach. Let's rejoin the action and our commentators.
This circuit will seem like a track to Doyle tonight. He grips his teeth, he gets more speed. Kelly looks over his shoulder, but he doesn't want to lose that wheel of Doyle, otherwise it'll be gone. It's going to be first rider back at 150 pounds. Will it be Doyle or will it be Kelly? But Doyle's got the legs. Tony Doyle is going down Sullivan's Key at the moment, and Kelly is having trouble hanging on. So as they come to 6 laps to go, it's going to be Tony Doyle on the line who gets the prize. Kelly is in second place, but the field behind is fragmenting now. There is absolute panic here because Kelly has been allowed his head.
He sure has, and he wasn't too worried about that 150-pound cream either. He's more concerned with the bigger fish that will be caught and not in the lee of that either. Right here on the banks thereof, as they swing that only right-hander, Tony Doyle, with Kelly on his wheel. The field breaking up just a little bit. Shane Sutton trying to close it down. Can anybody make the sustained challenge? They're getting back up to them again. Tony James I saw there. He was prominent. Now it's all closed up again, but Kelly is still in a good position.
Well, this is a critical move now, to say the least, because there's a breakaway forming of some 8 riders here, and the man who's missed it is the yellow jersey of Joey McLaughlin, losing valuable points towards the overall Kellogg's Championship if he doesn't get across to this break. 5 laps to go now. Kelly on the front. Then we have Tony Doyle there in second place, and the riders checking all the time to see who's behind now. I can see Bob Downs here, tucked in at the back. 2 wearing number 5 is Paul Watson. There's the gap. 3, 6, 8 men in the lead now as we come down towards the last 4 laps of this race. What a finish this is going to be, because Joey McLaughlin has made the mistake of not marshalling the final attacks, and Kelly was the rider who's waited for the best part of an hour tonight and has read the move very well indeed. Number 51 come up the back there. Steve Sefton has got on. Number 7 is Adrian Timmis, the rider who took the silver medal in the British Road Race Championship a few months ago. And this is a superb breakaway. Roach has come up to it too. So the only rider I can see, perhaps 2, to lose out, Jimmy, Malcolm Elliott and Joey McLaughlin haven't made the gap.
And the crowd in a state of excitement here as number 22, Bob Downs, takes them through. Bob Downs with Roach in second place. Roach and Kelly in close proximity there. A group of 8 away. 46 you saw there was Tony Doyle, the former World Pursuit champion. Joy McLaughlin trying to organise the bunch behind him, but this looks a significant one with just 3.5 laps to go.
Well, this rider, in fact, Dennis Erdbelt is being lapped. Here are the leaders now, and Stephen Roach gritting his teeth with his teammate for the night, and I think I should really say countryman, but nonetheless, Kelly and Roach quite clearly here in Ireland have worked this race once again to perfection, or at least it will be so if one of them win at the line now. Roach on the front and keeping Kelly in his slipstream. Doyle in third place, a very dangerous man in the sprint. So too is Bob Downs if it comes down to that. And the big loser undoubtedly now is Joey McLaughlin, the rider in yellow, swept away by the speed tonight, and this has been a superb race. They go through now 3 laps from the finish, and Steve Sefton, the man at the back, Steve Roach, the man at the front, Kelly in second place and staying in the slipstream of his countryman. Can he come out and win this here in Cork tonight?
It's Stephen Roach still beautifully poised over those handlebars. There's Kelly behind him. Tony Doyle in third position. Mark Walsham up there as well. Number 51 is Steve Sefton from the Rawlinson Duffin Sport team. Stephen Roach swings left. takes it down South Main Street. South Main Street here, they'll go about 100 metres as they come over the bridge, Southgate Bridge, swing left and into Sullivan's Quay. Down at the end of Sullivan's Quay, or towards the end of Parliament Bridge, is the start-finish line, and there's just 2 laps to go.
So Roach now keeps this pace up on the front. What a magnificent piece of riding by Stephen Roach from Dublin here. He keeps on telling us he's not fit, and then he comes out and turns out performances like this. He's holding this race away from the main field. I'm not going to catch up now. Steve Roach on the front. Kelly goes through first now. Roach in second place. Tony Doyle is third there. Then we've got Adrian Timmis, Phil Bayton, Steve Sefton, Bob Downs, and they are the leaders with Tony James. Kelly's trying to win this on his own. Look at the face of Sean Kelly now. Kelly is trying to take this race on his own, Jimmy.
The crowd's gone ecstatic around the course here in Cork. Roach did a marvellous job. What an evening of bike riding by Steve Roach to set it up. And what a form by Big Kelly, but Tony Doyle's on his tail, and Doyle's taking it up, coming up to Parliament Bridge for the last time in 1986, Kellogg. It's Tony Doyle, the pursuit star, from Kelly, the classic star. Those 2 away. They've stolen a march. They've gone into the last lap. A tick behind by first Doyle. Then Kelly, swing right into Grand Parade. Then we'll see them on our next camera coming into Tuckey Street. It's into Tuckey Street now with Tony Doyle from Sean Kelly. Can Doyle hold the big man from Carrick? Kelly on his wheel, tactically perfect. So if he's got it in the legs, it looks like Kelly's night.
So Doyle on the front now, and he's a tough customer. He can sprint too. Sean Kelly, don't forget, injured in the Tour of Switzerland, now making his comeback, and what a comeback this evening. It looks as though he's getting a little bit short of wind now, but Kelly has made all the right moves. Now can he make the final one? He looks over the back of Tony Doyle to see the line. He sees the line. Sean Kelly on the outside, now on our left, and Doyle on the right, and he gets it. Sean Kelly hits the line by 1/4 of a length. That was all. A brilliantly timed sprint, and that was a superb ride by Sean Kelly. He lives just down the road in Carrick on shore. That will be well worth seeing in slow motion. And here we are, Jimmy. What a marvellous sprint by Kelly on the far right as we watch this. He saw the banner coming up. He moved around Tony Doyle. Now he's on the left. And let's see the gap on the line. Doyle certainly still going well here, but Kelly had him well timed. He was all ready for the 2-handed salute. Sean Kelly is back in Cork in the biggest way imaginable.
You know, I think the crowd actually spirited that bike over the finish line. Great ride, Sean Kelly.
So the great Sean Kelly first across the line. That's how they wanted it in Cork, and Kelly produced the goods for them. In second place, Tony Doyle. Third was Phil Bayton. Bob Downs 4. Stephen Roach 5, and Adrian Timmis 6. As for the overall king of the sprints, well, Mike Doyle is now out in front with 16 points, edging out Joey McLaughlin, who's got 13. Then comes Malcolm Elliott with 10, and Phil Thomas with 8. And that, of course, after 2 races. The points that were picked up in Dublin were null and void. Overall race leader, well, Sean Kelly now joins Joey McLaughlin at the top of that table on 20 points each with a win. Then comes Tony Doyle on 17, and Sean Yates is in 4th place with 15 points. The man they all came to see, though, tonight in Cork, the great Sean Kelly. Sean, congratulations. We couldn't have written a cleaner script for you. A win here tonight. It was what they wanted, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, I think the people, that's what they came to see. They came to see myself or Stephen win. But yes, they came to see, I think,